Good morning, Keller Williams, and welcome back to the KW Command 66-Day Challenge 7.0, and today is day 48. So yesterday we introduced you to the KW consumer site via the KW agent site that you guys have via our consumer applet. Today we're going to dive into some additional app and site settings that you can go through to make decisions based upon your agent site. So let's do that by getting into the consumer applet, the very last one here. And we're going to click on that. If you'll recall, we created these two agent site pages when we used our Kelly guide to kind of set up our actual site. Today, we're going to dive into the site and app settings menu. So if you click on site and app settings, you're going to get 5 tabs that happen across the top. Before we get into these tabs, it's really important that you guys pay attention to this button right here. If this button is not green, it does not matter what we did yesterday. It doesn't matter what we do today. It doesn't matter when we start creating some additional agent site pages. None of that is actually going to show up on our site unless we have toggled this on. So super important to make sure that you have this toggled on. Otherwise, your site is going to look like a generic kw.com site without any information about you, your brand, your team, your information, etc. So definitely want to make sure you have this toggled on. Inside of this general tab, you're going to see the ability to go back and change your agent site hero text. You'll remember yesterday that's the text that shows just above the search box on your actual site. So if you created something yesterday and you want to make changes to it, you can do that from within this general tab. In addition, we talked about agent site hero images. You can see those 5 images here. If you wanted to make changes to those now or in the future, you would just decide which one you wanted to remove and then upload a new hero image to go in the background of your agent site. Next up, you've got registration. So this is a newish feature inside of our agent sites. Right now, someone can go to your agent site, so for example, martymiller.kw.com, and they can search for as many properties as they would like. They can click on photos, they can ask for more information, they can browse 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 properties. And as of right now, based upon the default settings of all of our agent sites, they will not be asked to register. However, if you would like to change that, you do have the ability to do so inside of this registration property limit section. This is where you can decide how many properties you will allow a visitor to see on your site before they are asked to register. So you can change that from as many as they want to only being able to see 10 or only being able to see 2 or not being able to see any at all before they register. Totally up to you how you want to decide how to handle that. If you're driving traffic to your agent site and you want to get more leads, maybe you choose 2 or 10. Maybe you only want people on your site to have to register if they want to see anything on your site. Then you could say, hey, no property viewing. Totally up to you. Just remember that there are a lot of sites that do require you to register before you go any further in the site. And some of them allow you to play for a little while and then ask you to register. So while this behavior is not uncommon, it's totally up to you as to how the decision is, whether you're going to allow them to search unrestricted or after a few, then you're going to ask them to actually register. So this is where you would change those actual property limits. In addition, you've got the download app landing page. So this is where if you send out your app to consumers, what they would actually see when it comes time to download your app. So this might say search for properties in Katy, Texas, right, in my example. Finally, if you've got some virtual tours that you want listed on kw.com, the KW app, and your agent site, this is where you can actually go in and select your specific listing and then add in the virtual tours for those specific properties. Moving back up to the top, we've got the URLs tab. So this is where you can change your subdomain. We talked about that yesterday. If for any reason you're not in love with what you selected yesterday, you can come back at any time and change this. Just know that it takes about 15 minutes to update, number one. And number two, once you release your subdomain, it is fair game for anyone else to then select. So just a heads up. All of our agent sites also come with complimentary identical consumer app. So the consumer can actually go in, download the KW consumer app, and if they download just a stock version of it, then they can search for property without choosing an agent for a while, depending. If you want them to actually have your specific app that is branded to you, such that all the properties have your information on them, this is the app that you would want to send out. In addition, on your agent site, there is a featured listing section just below the actual search bar. So let me show you that real quick. If we go to this test site, martymiller2.kw.com, I'm going to show you what the featured listing section looks like. So here we have our hero images, our hero text. As we scroll down, these are the featured listings section. So inside of the featured listings tab, you have a headline. So you can choose up to 100 characters for this headline, and then you can select properties that you want featured. Now, as you can see, and just a heads up, right, the listings don't always center. So my recommendation is that you have at least 4 if you're going to be doing the featured listings. If you go more than 4, then you're going to set up a carousel, right? And you can have up to 12. So the carousel will just have arrows to the left and right, and the consumer could then cycle through. But just a heads up, if you are going to do the featured listing section, if you don't have 4 or more, it does not center, so it looks a little bit wonky. Just a heads up there inside of the featured listings tab. Essentially, you would just go in, click on select listing, find the property you want to feature, click on done, and you can see right now we have selected 2 of 12, but if you wanted to select more, you would just go through that process as well. Next up, we've got the theme. We talked about this. Doesn't make a massive change. The difference between red and black, you can decide if you want to play with that later on in the future. And finally, the last tab is agent site pages. These are the actual pages right now that show in the drop-down of our agent site. So you can see on this drop-down, we've got Meet Marty Miller and Contact Us. And those were the 2 that we built out yesterday throughout the Kelly Guide. We're going to talk about how to build some additional agent sites in a future challenge, but this is basically just your ability to see what is currently on your agent site. So that's it for today, guys. My recommendation, come back through and just double check everything you did yesterday. Make sure you still like your agent site hero text and images. Consider putting in some property limitations. Go in and check out the actual ability to add virtual tours if you have any on any of your active listings. Next up, go to the URLs. Make sure you're still in love with your subdomain. If not, choose to change that. Come in the featured listing section, choose at least 4 if you're going to go that route. Just make sure you have permission to advertise those. I would recommend typically sticking within your own office or brokerage, and discuss this with your leadership team as well. And then finally, consider changing red or black. Not a big, massive change here. And of course, agent site pages we'll get to later. So really, you're just dealing with these first 3 tabs. That's it for today, guys. Our site and app settings section of the consumer applet. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about actual agent site pages, how to build them. We're going to dive into testimonials in the future as well. So stay tuned for that. Always good talking to you. Look forward to talking to you again real soon.